Okay. Welcome. Oops. Welcome to the City of Oregon Committee of the Whole meeting for December the 4th, 2023 at 7:03 p.m. We will open the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you. We do have, this is Committee of the Whole meeting, so we do have somebody signed in to speak this evening, Mr. Petroff. And Mr. Petroff, I'm going to have you come up prior to the meeting to speak. That way we won't keep you around for the boring meeting that will go on afterwards, but you can.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Take your
Meetings are
time.
never boring. You
Yeah, they can
Come
be.
every week.
Yeah.
Well, they aren't that exciting either.
Well, we'll make them
I've
exciting.
had my share of meetings. I come here on behalf of dozens of your tax-paying Oregon people to talk about pickleball. I know I've worked with the mayor on this before and with Paul Roman in 2022 and with the grant from the Y which fell through. And we have all of our people going all over Northwest Ohio, Perrysburg, Sylvania, Rossford, for God's sakes, Holland, Ohio, Bowling Green to play pickleball. And the Y has 3 indoor courts, which get jammed, and so people keep going all over. This is a sport that every age group can play. I'm 85, actually 85 and a half, and I'm playing, which gives you an idea that who can play. You're supposed to applaud and say, yeah. And if we had the courses here, rec department could have the young people play. Young people around the country are playing this game. Fact is, the number 1 female player in the world is 17 years old. She's an incredible athlete. And number 1 male, I think, is 23. High school kids are playing. Grade school kids are playing. All these people would play if we had the courts in this city. You'd have a pickleball culture that would be the envy of everybody. I think we've got the space to put it. I know the budget can handle it. And I move you to move ahead on this as quickly as possible so all our people don't have to go driving miles and miles to play.
Your Honor, can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
You've obviously noticed the new ones here at Pearson Park. Is there 2 courts or 3?
Well,
Are they being used?
Yeah, we thank the county. They put in 4 courts.
Okay.
They're better than we expected, but they have issues. First, they never leveled the ground, so it's a little bit like this. On
Okay.
range, you can never play for days because it's full of water. They didn't extend the fences, so you need a good 10 feet at least behind the back line where people are moving. They have maybe 6 feet, and the last 2 feet drain down into the fence, so you can have ankle problems and other things. So it's better than nothing. We're grateful if they put them in, but we'd like to have courts similar to what Perrysburg has, for example, Sylvania has. Well-designed, good courts that you can use and not get hurt.
And how many courts do you think is suitable?
At least 8.
Mr. President,
Mr. Mayor?
Don, we did speak about that a little bit at last week's meeting. And Joel and I had a rather pleasant conversation about that. And the pickleball courts came up, and the first option was to rehab the tennis courts at the Y. And we're not really in favor of that because we know that anything we build like that, we would like to own ourselves on our property.
Yes.
So a couple other options come up, and this complex is the most likely. And so to build from new, we figured about $400,000, maybe $450,000 to build that. And I think we can squeeze that in the budget this year. So that is really our plan, to budget it for 2024.
Would like that very much. And I might add that you've done a lot for the youth of this community with all the fields and all the games and all this stuff. Very little, if anything, is done for adults. And right now, adults are playing this thing big time. Later on, if you had the courts here, you'd see every age group playing.
I always saw you as the youth.
That's a great point, though.
Yeah.
It's a great point. It is.
So I appreciate it, and I would like to see it in the budget.
That is our plan. We grasped that from the council conversation last week, that I believe they were in support of that too, with the on the merits that we would build it likely here, not on someone else's grounds.
And again, I'd like to be involved with that planning.
And plus, we're
process,
putting in a
so.
soft serve ice cream in the
Yes.
new concession
Portfolio,
stand.
yes. Good, I appreciate your patience and having us here today. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Good seeing you.
Thank you.
We
Thank you.
look forward to seeing you next week.
Oh, yeah, I'll be here.
Is there
And-
anybody,
I will
bring
be
your-
here while the budget's being prepared.
is there anybody else here that'd like to speak in this, on this topic? Come on up. Yeah, come on up. Come on up. You gotta come up. Yeah. Yeah. State your name and address for the record, please. Oh, no kidding. Okay.
Brenda Kozlowski. I live at 30630 Walbridge Road.
Yeah.
205 Walbridge, Ohio.
Yeah.
But I'm playing in Oregon all the time. I've been playing for 10 years pickleball, and it has skyrocketed like you would not believe. I play at Premier. I play in Rossford. I play in Savannah. I play in Perrysburg. And of course, started our local Y. I played at Pearson Park, and it has just skyrocketed.
Mhm.
And there's like, you play 4 people, there's like 10, 15 paddle piles, and it just constantly going, it's just going. And little kids are playing now, and now they're going all the way up to 85 years old.
85 and a half.
I'm sorry. So I really Oregon needs it. I mean, we're the only, not me, but I'm just saying, we're the only one here that doesn't have, and Pearson Park was beautiful. That was always packed. And the lights, there's no lights, but that's okay.
Yeah.
But I'm just putting an input how long I've been playing, and it's just unbelievable. So,
Mr.
I'm
President,
done.
Thank you.
ma'am,
Mr. Reeves, go ahead.
how are they doing on the pickleball courts in Walbridge?
Walbridge?
Yes.
They're-
The ones at Railway Park?
Yeah, they're starting to develop it. It's still in the works.
Yeah,
Well, everything's in the works.
correct. I mean, I see it all the
But
time.
Northwood is building theirs. They have indoor courts at their new facility that they're building at the old Woodville Mall. They're gonna be completed in the spring. And I don't know if the outside are gonna be done, but they do have inside ones.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, I know that they were putting new courts up at Railway Park
right,
there.
they're gonna do that
I was
too. haven't
wondering-
heard any more about it.
Well, I know that they got the
Yep.
pavement and all that stuff is all done. It's just the fencing and the nets and that itself haven't been put up yet.
I'm busy playing everybody else.
But just to let you know, according to, piggybacking off what the mayor said, council, last week during the committee budget hearings, we have directed them to find ways to get this taken care
I
of.
hope so. I hope.
in,
so.
this
It
year's
works
budget
out
coming up.
because You guys are really missing out. It brings in a lot of people.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Reeves. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak? Go ahead.
I'm Ed Pearson. I live on Star Avenue. I just wanted to say that pickleball tournaments are big business. And the recreation department does such a great job on their baseball tournaments. I think pickleball tournaments would bring in a lot of revenue to the city. So that's one aspect of pickleball to look at too.
Thank you. Thank you.
McDougal, 6425 Bay Shore Road, Oregon, Ohio. Following on what Ed said about indoor tournaments, are you looking at an outdoor facility or just
Outdoor.
strictly indoor?
Outdoor for now, we started off with that. We'll see where that takes
Because I'll
us.
tell you when the big crowds are, is in the winter. Big
Okay.
crowds of pickleball is when the Y's jam. The other night, we had 35 people at the Monday night Y session. So you play a game, then you sit for half an hour, you know? So indoor facilities are probably more in demand than outdoor facilities. So but,
What's that?
I mean, we just joined Rossford's community center to get in, to play indoors in the winter. You know, the Y's, you know, it's, the outdoor courts are fun during the summer. We'd much rather play outdoors than anything. But to keep the stuff going all summer, all year round, you know, indoor facility would be nice too. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak about this topic?
Mr. President,
Mr. Jurek.
Mr. Petroff, the borders around, I know they're fenced in. I've never seen one yet. But the borders around, are they,
You have a short memory. I took you out to Perrysburg.
that might have been Dennis.
No, you
No,
you
Terry.
took me out.
I took both.
Terry. We kind of look the same.
This is my twin brother with hair.
Yeah. Do they normally have like shrubbery around the fence
Now
or,
you got wind curtains or
okay,
curtains with, well, are made for tennis, and pickleball and badminton and all that. So the air comes through, but it keeps the wind out. So,
okay. Thank you.
anybody else?
You're good.
Mr. President, I do have a question. If I may, Judge Petrov, and this might be, I'm going to
Sure,
ask
yeah,
it in
go ahead.
general for this.
Go ahead.
So obviously, we've tried to prioritize, talk about putting this into the budget for next year. Assuming it's an outdoor facility, which I think right now that is the game plan, we don't have an indoor space to put it in. Hopefully, time will provide some things. How important are lights?
Well, lights obviously give you the option of playing in the evening, which a lot of people will do. If you look at the pickleball,
Oh, by the way, we were planning,
Football.com.
we would plan on lights.
yeah,
Okay, lights are part of the plans,
Yeah.
because I know when we talked about, it, I hadn't heard about lights, just courts, and that's what I was going to ask. How important of an ask is that for us to make sure they're usable into
Oh, yeah.
nighttime hours?
especially working people, you know. Those of us who are retired can hang around anytime. So.
You still work.
Yes. Good, thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Your Honor. Is there anybody else? Thank you for your input. You do not have to stay for the rest of the meeting. If you'd like to leave, you're free to do so. It's going to be a short one, but thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, council, we have three items to discuss this evening. And the first item that we'll be discussing is presented by Mayor Michael Safarian and Public Service Director Paul Roman, is item 162, 2023. And I will defer to Mr. Roman on this particular topic.
Thank you, Mr. President. This ordinance is needed to sign an RPA agreement with ODOT for the replacement of the Corduroy Road Bridge over Otter Creek. This is the bridge on Corduroy between North Yarrow and Torch Drive, right there on the south side of the Toledo Water Plant. City has been awarded a federal highway grant that pays 95% of construction, up to $817,000. And ODOT is also paying for the design through their what's called their task order, but they're basically hiring the consultant. It's 100% ODOT's cost. So our share is that 5%, which is $93,000 for this project, which is just a great grant. The funding breakdown and the responsibilities of both ODOT and the city are included in Exhibit A, and I can happy to answer any questions on it.
Thank you, Mr. Roman. Council, do you have any questions for Mr. Roman on item 162, 2023? Hearing none, I will seek a motion to move item 162, 2023 to next week's regular meeting agenda. Mr. Reeves.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Reeves.
Second.
Second by Mr. Drake. Thank you, Mr. Drake. Council, any objections? Hearing none, item 162, 2023 will be moved to next week's regular meeting agenda. The next two items are presented by Mayor Michael J. Safarian and Fire Chief Clayton O'Brien. Item 163, 2023. And I will defer to Chief O'Brien on item 163.
Thank you, Mr. President. This ordinance is for the change order, the final change order of the fire station in the amount of $3,918, and it was for 6 door closures. That work was completed last year. It's just finally coming through to have the final change order done.
Okay, Chief, while I got you there, do you want to talk about 164?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. The 164 is for the part-time contract. Between Joel and I, we did meet with the part-time firefighters and looked at their contract, went through the negotiations with the contract, and in the attachment to this, to the handout, you should see all the changes that were within that contract. So try to do a color-coded one because there was a lot of changes with this. So initially, the contract started out with 26 articles. You're seeing a contract presented to you in a final form of 13 articles, mainly just in the events of, normal disciplinary procedures, grievances, so on and so forth. A lot of the things that were removed from that contract were things that we're going to be internally making of policy within the fire department. As I talked a little bit ago with the Lexipol system and things of that nature, that's how we had worked out majority of that contract there. And then I did talk about the thing with the part-time contract as far as the coats go. We did budget for that as far as the winter jackets, but I'll let Joel talk about as far as the length of the contract and the percentage wage increase.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief. Mr. Major, do you want to weigh in on the, I guess, pretty much 64?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Just that it was actually a pretty short and sweet contract negotiation. I believe it was ratified by the union a couple of weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago. So just looking for council passage. We did do a 4-year contract to line up with every other contract because the part-time contract was the only one that didn't get extended like the other ones did. So the percentages are 2.75%, 3%, 2.75 and 2.75 each year.
Thanks, Mr. Major.
Yep.
Council, any questions or comments regarding items 163 or 164?
Mr. President,
Mr. Reeves?
thank you. It's 163.
Yes.
I just have issues with, I'm trying to read through this and I'm not sure if I understand it correctly. But, these door closures, they didn't come with it, when we first put this on. And then now it looks like, it seems like I understand change orders and that, but just seems like nothing against our people here, but we start getting nickel and dimed. Mr. Roman, Paul, if like contractor fees, they've already, we're doing that work. I thought door handles came with the door for the closure. And now we're paying, we got another expenditure of $3,918. Contractor's fee, 10% after, the over and above the labor that's been provided is, it's 349. We had the bond putting door handles or closures on at $76 and then round to the nearest dollar. It it just seems like us being a municipality, it seems like we get taken, I don't know how to explain it. It just seems like we're paying more for something that should have been done in the first bid. We shouldn't have to have a changeover. And I mean, that's all I see. I don't see, I don't understand. I don't understand the extra, $3,918. So if somebody could please explain it to me, I'd greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Reeves.
Mr. President,
Mr. Rowland.
I can say I haven't been directly involved with this change order. I know Rodney probably has, and with the Buer Group, and certainly we can always provide more information to explain it. But in general, I can tell you just from my experience, change order is the most frustrating part about construction. You know, it pays to have a good design. Sometimes the more detailed designs cost more, but they're worth it in the end because they're preventing nickel and diming in change orders. But even with most detailed design, there's things you just didn't catch or you didn't have. You know, our project out at the wastewater plant, I have a running list of change orders. They're probably around 150 grand of probably 20 different items. And then there's a lot of unforeseen things that you just don't see as a designer. And so trust me, as the owner of these projects, it gets extremely frustrating. And then what kills you is then, you know, if you would have had it in the bid, it'd be a fraction of what the change order is. You know what I mean? That's what kills you. So I get the frustration,
Well,
but I'm here to say it is very typical.
I agree with that it's very typical. Okay? It really shouldn't be.
Well,
I mean, we are paying 14 hours to install 6 door handles or door closures. 14 hours, $75 a piece. I understand that. You know, you know, you have to pay for the guy that's doing it. But I don't understand, I just can't fathom the contractor's fee again for the 10%.
well, yeah.
You know, I mean, I know it's not an awful lot of money on this, but it could be. I mean, if you take, you know, the 349 and the 76, you're looking at 420 something or 425, 430. It's just, that's the stuff that bothers. If
No,
I was
and-
doing it, Mr. Roman, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
Okay.
If I was doing this at home and they were doing this, I'd find me a different person.
Well, and not to say that if something's going very poorly and you're having problems, yes, it can happen on a city level as well. But it is in most contract standards, most contract documents that the contractor can charge overhead and profit for every change order, and that's what kills you. And that can get up to 15%. A lot of companies go to that 15% standard as markup. That's why you want to catch as much as you can in design. And a lot of people, that's why, trust me, I came from the consulting side too. And, you know, I'd see engineering firms that would do poor designs. You'd get them at a real great price, but they'd make their money back on change orders because they're also the ones doing construction coordination and they make their money off their mistakes. So it gets me, we're very detail oriented. We do design in-house. And we can spend more time on detail because we're here at the site that we're designing something. But for consultants, sometimes you don't get that. You only pay for so much time for them to analyze something and do a design. So that's the killer. So there may be more to this than we're not really seeing. There may be something simple that explains it all. Maybe Rodney, I'm sure, has that. There could have been just something that an afterthought or some unforeseen thing. But I'm just saying there usually is a markup for overhead and profit. That's been that way for a long time.
It just really bothers me that the details of things are not, I'm not even sure how to say it. I mean, in the original bid and the drawings, in my opinion, and if somebody else thinks the same way or different, that stuff should all be in here.
And Mr. President,
Mr. Walzak, go
Thank you,
ahead.
Mr. President. And Mr. Reeves, not to defend Midwest Contracting, the consultant here, but if you read, per our conversation during previous progress meetings Thursday, 12/8/22, Oregon Fire Department chiefs requested pricing to install additional door closures on the following doors not originally scheduled. So this is something we requested.
Thank you, Mr. Walzak.
Mr. President?
Ms. Pauloff.
I do get why this was done because it was requested and the charges and everything. What I don't understand is if Midwest, if Mike Rowe from Bureau Group received this on 12/26/22, it's been completed, right? So why are we getting this now? That's my question.
Mr. President,
Chief, go ahead.
and Ms. Polloff, the reason that, to my understanding, that, and I wish Mark was here, Assistant Chief Mullins, if he was here, he's just ill. Otherwise, he would be able to speak a lot, better on this topic because he has been intimate with this project the entire way through. To my understanding, when I talked to Mark about it, it wasn't in the design due to some sort of maybe cost savings at the time of when they originally designed it, of why the closures weren't put in or put on the design. And then after being in the facility for a 1-year time frame, noticed that these doors, maybe lead the ones that lead to the outside into the bay that are frequently open and not closing on a regular basis, so you'd have to manually close them, is why the closures were requested by them during those meetings. And the reason why it's coming at this time to my understanding, the reason why it's coming at this late is because of the 1-year closeout. So they've just done a walkthrough with the facility. And so they're making sure all the punch lists and things are done, making sure everything is done. And I know Rodney has been in conversation with Mark, and they have been doing all the work together back and forth. But that's my understanding why it's just now coming forth as far as the change order to ensure that it was a last and final. So if anything else would have came up along the way, that it could have been included all in one final change order. But it just so happened to be that this is just the last and final, and the only thing it pertains to is the door closures.
Thank you,
for
Chief.
that.
Mr.
Thank you, Ms.
President,
Pauloff.
just one comment, and just that on all these projects, and as we're going through the budget meetings and everything you do capital-wise, you should always have a contingency because there's always something. I mean, everything we bid out, we always have, when we're just projecting, we always have a 5 to 10% contingency just for change orders. Like out at the water plant and wastewater plant, those are lump sum bids. It just says lump sum, here's your figure. There's not a breakdown of items. So it gets difficult and you get into what's called schedule of values, and the change order discussions get worse because there's no upfront bid value to work from in that. So it's a fight every change order. So it is important to have contingencies for these things. So that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Roman. Council, any other questions or comments regarding item 163? Hearing none, I will seek a motion to move item 163, 2023 to next week's regular meeting agenda.
Mr. President?
Ms. Pauloff.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Pauloff. Second by Mr. Drake. Thank you, Mr. Drake. Council, any objections? Hearing no objections, item 163, 2023 will be added to next week's regular meeting agenda. Council will move on to item 164. Does anybody have any further questions or comments regarding item 164? Hearing none, I will seek a motion to send item 164, 2023 to next week's regular meeting agenda.
Mr. President?
Ms. Pauloff.
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Horniak. Council, any objections? Hearing none, item 164, 2023 will be added to next week's regular meeting agenda. Council, this concludes our agenda items for this evening for the Committee of the Whole. We will now move to the mayor's report. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mashur.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just wanted to remind everybody that the employee Christmas luncheon is Wednesday, the 6th. So hopefully you can make it for lunch. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Mashur. Ms. Purpura.
No report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Ms. Purpura. Mr. Roman.
I just want to mention, we did have bid openings for our chemicals at the water plant. So I plan to bring in an ordinance next Monday for that. So that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Roman. Mr. Reeves.
No report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Reeves. Mr. Drake?
No report.
Thank you, Mr. Drake. Mr. Wolanzak?
Thank you, President Zale. Obviously, we had our budget hearing for safety services. I want to schedule another meeting for next Monday, December 11th at 5:30 PM, which will be our final budget hearing to discuss the budget. And then that would lead into passage of the budget the following week. So we will have another budget hearing, under the Finance Committee, Monday, December 11th at 5:30 PM here in Chambers.
Thank you, Mr. Wolanzak. Ms. Paulo?
No report, Mr. President.
Well, thank you, Ms. Paulo. Mr. Horniak?
No report from my standing committee, but I do have a question, kind of going back to the pickleball discussion, since we're in budget right now. How does that work if we're looking to appropriate those funds or budget those funds in a 2024 budget? Would that be represented? How does that filter back through the budgetary process with that consideration being a priority that we are trying to add into the 24 budget?
We were planning on just adding it into the budget, whatever the amount that we would estimate it would be for a new pickleball court at the rec complex. So we would add it in, make you aware of it, and council then would have the final decision on if it's in or out.
All right, so is it fair to say in the last budget meeting or prior to passing the budget, it would be hey, here's an addition or a deletion, whatever. Here's a list of adds and takes that we're doing with the budget for consideration prior to doing that. Does that sound?
Our version of it.
Our version of a change order
Yeah,
with a
You're right.
10% for
You're
Joel
right.
in there, so.
I think realistically, it's like adding to the wish list, because you guys will vote on that anyway.
I was gonna add it to my project list when I did our presentation next week, but it's always like this. It's always that last meeting, there's always a bunch of changes.
Yeah.
And it's never 100% until then.
Fair enough. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you,
everyone.
Mr. Horniak.
Mr.
And I have
President?
no, nothing for my standing committee, and I will seek a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Mr. Reeves, thank you. Second by Mr. Horniak. Council, any objections? Hearing none, this meeting is adjourned.